You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. I'm Dylan Abote on Twitter. Here to talk about the latest Auburn athletics news as we have a full show today to talk about. As I'm going to start off real simple with Auburn getting the big win over the Creighton Blue Jays in what looks to be I would consider to be a dominating fashion. Auburn gets the win 82-70. In the first half, this game was really close. Creighton had the lead by 2. And that's a lot. They give a lot of thanks to shooting extremely well from the three-point line in that first half. 9 of 14. They shot 64% in that first half and answered back in the second half, shooting 3 of 13. So just a drop-off in shooting for Creighton, shooting 12 of 27 on the game. Auburn, on the other hand, didn't really shoot the three all that well, but shot overall pretty well, especially a nice – what's the word I want to look for here? A reversal of their free throw woes, shooting 71% as a team. And I mean, you had a lot of big games here. You're looking at plus minus wise, Dylan Cardwell had the most important game of the day with 6 points, 4 rebounds. He had a steal, had a couple of blocks as well, plus minus of 24 on the game for Dylan Cardwell. But you got to look at Tahad Pettiford in his second career game in March Madness. He has scored 23 points, or did score 23 points. Behind him was Chad Bickham-Mazzara, who scored 17. And dealt with some injuries throughout the game for Chad, but and then after that, Denver Jones got 15 points. You had Ja'Kai Howard get in, did not score at all. Chaney Johnson got 8 points. Miles Kelly got 5 points, only made 1 3 out of his 5 attempts, only made 1 shot out of his 8. And then you had Janiah Broome, who didn't have a double-double, only had 8 points, but did get 12 rebounds to boast for that. Also had 2 blocks and a steal for Janiah and an assist. Dylan Cardwell also had 3 assists as well, adding to that. Overall, I mean, this was a really good game for Auburn going forward, and a confidence booster to not only the team, but to the fans watching Auburn play. Because after the Alabama State game, I mean, it was a little rough around the edges that first half. And I meant to put up an episode talking about that game, but I completely went over it, got very busy over the week. But the biggest lead Auburn had was 14 in the second half. Creighton had a 4-point lead in the first half, but after that, after the little back and forth they had where there was about 16 lead changes and where they were tied for 7 minutes, Auburn got the lead and kept the lead for the remainder of the game. Auburn had the lead for 27 minutes of this game to Creighton's 9 minutes. Turnover-wise, Auburn forced 14 turnovers out of Creighton, outscored them in the paint by a large margin, 42-24. Second chance points. Auburn came back after what we saw from them in the past few games, had 19 second chance points, only 6 from Creighton. Fast breaks at Creighton's favor, 12-9. Bench points. I mean, you could give a lot of thanks here to Tahad Pettiford. 31 points off the bench for the Auburn Tigers. And going ahead, I mean, you got Michigan this week. I mean, of course, you got a little bit of time to prepare yourself. I mean, Trey Donaldson is looking forward to this game from what he has said, and Michigan is not going to be a team to sleep on. Auburn will take on them on Friday, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about that game throughout the week. But I am very confident in this Auburn Tiger team that I saw yesterday. And of course, the first half a little iffy, but as a team, I mean, this Auburn team can't be beat when they play like they did. Whenever they're shooting the ball well, whenever they have players who are taking over the game, they have guys who are who might not be putting up points, but are definitely being a vital part of why Auburn got this win versus Creighton. Because a lot of fans were not confident that Auburn can get this win, and despite Auburn being the number 1 overall seed. But this is the win that Auburn needed to prove that they can go the distance. Because I've said it, and I'm sure other people have said it. If Auburn doesn't make an Elite 8 loss, feels like a failure. It does. Auburn, this is the best team Auburn's ever put on a court. We showed that in the regular season. You ended the season off a little rough, losing 3 of your last 4 games. But besides the point, this is, again, the best team Auburn has put on a court in their entire history of playing basketball. And you got the best player in the country, Janai Broom, who, didn't put up a lot of points in this game that he were used to. There we go. But in a game like this, he didn't need to. He had Tahad and Denver and Chad Baker-Mazzara who did that for him. You didn't have stupid fouls get called on Auburn. Like, you didn't have anybody elbowing or stepping on people. And you had a good, clean game where you took over in the end. That is what Auburn basketball should be doing. And that's what they should have been doing to end the season out. But a bad taste in our mouths despite that. But Auburn basketball moving on to Sweet 16. First time in a while, I believe, after last year's round 1 exit. But Auburn did it. Auburn won. Got a big win over the Creighton Blue Jays. Moving on to Michigan here. I mean, Trey Donaldson is going to be a vital part of Michigan's game plan. And with Trey and watching Trey, we've all got to see Trey over the past few years. He is going to be tough for whoever's guarding him. I'm not going to say he's going to be the best guard Auburn has faced all year, but he's going to be one of the toughest to guard. And that's going to be up to Denver, Miles, and Tahad to kind of keep him corralled because, he feels like he has something to prove against Auburn. I don't think he got kicked to the curb, but it's definitely a better departure than the other guard departure was. But everyone still respects Trey, and on the court, you better respect him even more because he is going to give you everything and more for every single possession they get. And Auburn was able to lock down Stephen Ashworth because he shot very poorly after. I think there was one point in the game he said they can't guard me, and then after that he was on an absolute cold streak for like the rest of the game. But Stephen Ashworth, dude, looks 40. Regardless, Auburn needs to play like they did in this game for every game. And, of course, there are some things you need to clean up. I mean, you shot pretty terribly. I mean, the shot in the first half, 3 of 11 from the three-point line. You don't need to just throw up threes when they're not falling. Of course, the second half, they hit 4 of 8, but 27% from the three-point line. You were able to score in the middle at will. You could do whatever you want in the paint. But you cannot just start throwing up threes against Michigan, against whoever you could see further down the line. Because they're not going to some teams aren't going to let you get those offensive rebounds. That's something Auburn really struggled with against some of these other teams like Florida, like Texas A&M, like Duke, like Bama. You weren't getting those second chance points. You're able to against Creighton because you outsize them, but you can outman them. The other teams, the SEC teams, the top teams of the ACC, those other teams aren't going to let you just do that. Stephen Allen, War Eagle, to you as well. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on the game. How do you think Auburn played against Creighton? I think this was a great showcase of what Auburn should be as a basketball team. It's what Auburn should be in the tournament. I shouldn't be worried about Auburn losing to a team like Alabama State like I was at the very early parts of that game. But a big win over a really good Creighton team. The Creighton I saw against Louisville had me shaking in my boots a little bit. My shivers were timbered, if I do say so myself. So again, up next for the Tigers on Friday in Atlanta, Georgia, in beautiful State Farm Arena, we take on number 5 Michigan in the Sweet 16. Of course, other games still going on as we're talking. I think Alabama's currently up right now. Last time I checked, by 7 to St. Mary's. Who else? I can't remember. I was just watching a game, but I can't remember which one it was. I think it was not important. But yeah, Auburn lives to fight another day. Hopefully get a chance to keep doing that. I was watching Illinois and Kentucky. There we go. So yeah, a little update for March Madness. If you're watching me instead of March Madness, Alabama is up 42-29 at halftime. And with 8 minutes left to go in the second half, Kentucky is up 70-56. If you I heard the last perfect bracket still alive, and they picked Illinois to win. So bad judgment call on their last 2 games of the day. there's a few more games left of the day. But up next, you got Ole Miss and Iowa State, New Mexico and Michigan State, Oregon and Arizona, which I have Oregon going on a run if you've not joined the College Loop Bracket Challenge yet. Or I don't think you can anymore. That Stephen Allen, I'll actually get to your comment in the football segment because I got women's basketball to talk about just right now. Because women's basketball made a splash hire today, hiring Norfolk State coach Larry Vickers. John Cohen said Coach Vickers has an incredible technical understanding of women's basketball. He demands excellence from his student athletes while fostering an environment for young women to succeed. His understanding of the new landscape of college athletics is impressive. No one has worked harder for an opportunity like this than Coach Vickers. And of course, over the last few years, going back to the last 2 years of Coach Vickers' tenure at Norfolk State, 27-6 this past year, going 13-1 in the MEAC, finishing of course first in that conference. Won the conference and of course got bounced in the first round of the NCAA tournament. But regardless, I mean, very good record for him in the past for a team like Norfolk. Of course, 2022-23 year, 26-7, so upgraded a win from last year. 11-3 in the conference, also won the MEAC, and was also in the NCAA first round. Is there a better terminology for MEAC? Is there? MEAC just sounds like I'm throwing up as I'm saying it, but very strong records for him. I think I said the record was like 53-13 the past 2 years. It has gone 24-4 in his conference for the past 2 years. Dude's a winner, and he rebuilds. And of course, you got to give him some time because Auburn is down a few players in the portal, and with Coach Vickers to get those girls back. And I mean, if they're wanting to, of course, a lot of these athletes nowadays, they don't commit to schools anymore. And I know some people kind of get upset about that. They don't commit to schools, they commit to coaches. So it'll be up to him to get that done. I was a big believer that, they fired Coach Day too early. It was too premature to fire her. But from what I see of Coach Vickers, I think it'd be a great hire moving down the line. And I mean, if he can recruit well and put a better product on the court, I'm okay with that. I'm all for upgrades. If it is an upgrade, I'm up for it. But besides the point, and of course, this is a team Auburn is very knowledgeable of, because this past year Auburn did in fact lose to Norfolk State 63-57, where they just had an absolute field day scoring. Had two girls put up 15 and 17 points, just having themselves a day versus Auburn. But Auburn was a team that had to deal with a lot of injuries this past year. I'm not going to put it – I don't like putting a lot of blame on things, but injuries did happen, and they do happen in the sport. Again, I left a little sour taste the way they just fired Coach Jay for a season that, you can't help at times. But from everything I've seen from Coach Vickers, I think it's a great hire. And, I want women's basketball to succeed. I want it to happen. So, with that being said, I'm going to get to Stephen Allen's comments in just a second when we get out from the break, talk about some football as spring practice gets underway very, very soon. And he has a nice little hypothetical conversation I can delve into when we come right back from the break.
Are you tired of having to rummage through just clothes after clothes after clothes looking for something to wear? Are you tired of your friends making fun of you for your terrible fashion sense? Well, do we have the shirt for you? Go to thewarreport.com, get your laptop out and do it right now. Go to the shop and get your very own Feelin' Loopy t-shirt as well as your college loop hat, and you can get both of them for only $25 each. Plus shipping and handling, of course. But with that, now back to your regular scheduled program.
Available on thewarreport.com. Go to the shop, second page. You'll find the College Loop shirt and the College Loop t-shirt. Both come items you wear in your entire life. Constantly wearing them every day of the week. And of course, the merch is only one way to support the channel. Of course, the best way to support the channel is, of course, by liking, by subscribing, and by commenting. Let me know, what are your thoughts on Auburn's, the words are hard, Sweet 16 matchup versus Michigan? And of course, add to the conversation we're about to have. Stephen Allen just posted, which I'll talk about before I get into Keldric Faulk for a split second. And of course, don't forget to subscribe. Of course, we are getting very close to 1,000 subscribers. It'd be super cool to reach that milestone. Love watching it go from specific numbers to just 1K. It'd be very, very cool. So as we move on, I do want to delve into what Steven is talking about here. So he said Gus Malzahn wins a natty with Freeze's year one quarterback room. Going on to say Gus with Robbie and Jarquez would have been crazy. Does everyone still think Hugh is the guy? And then goes to talk about Michigan being a bit scary, which I do agree with. So just to get this conversation going, I would need to look at the entire roster here, because that year one Hugh roster was a roster that was kind of torn apart by Brian Harsin. It was not, if you kind of work with Gus's the year after Gus got fired and then put Hugh into that, I think it's a different conversation than having Gus work with what Brian Harsin left in pieces. Now, I mean, I do think that with the RPO scheme, the read option plays that Gus Malzahn tended to use a lot, I do think Robbie would have worked out well. But there were some mechanic issues with Robbie's throwing motions. I think passing wise, it would have still been very tough. Jarquez would have been a really good back for him. Kind of works in the same light as, I mean, he had the same play style, I would say, as Tank. I don't think there's really I'm trying to think of a running back in the Malzahn era that kind of fits into the mold of Jarquez, because Trey was a bit smaller and faster. Carry-on was more of an all-purpose back. Was there Cameron Payne, I guess, could fit into that for Jarquez. Jarquez probably a faster version of Cap. Trying to see if I don't know if there's a running back I can really compare to Jarquez. He was pretty much his own breed of back out of the guys we saw from the Malzahn era. But I do think, regardless, Malzahn would have had a field day with Quez. It's an interesting conversation because, I mean, I think you still wouldn't be able to pass the ball. I mean, it'd still be it would feel like a Malzahn caliber wide receiver room in the smaller, faster guys who are probably better route running, but we never really got to see that with what year one's offense looked like. But that does delve into the part. Would Peyton Thorne be involved in this, Stephen? Would Peyton Thorne still be a quarterback to talk about in this conversation? Because first year, Peyton Thorne has the better passing mechanics than Robbie Ashford did. As big of an Ashford fan as I was, I can admit Thorne had a higher ceiling when it came to passing the ball. And no Thorne. Okay, no Thorne. So just straight up Robbie Ashford. They'd run the ball a lot more. It would probably be closer to what you saw from Nick Marshall in that first year, where it was mostly a run-heavy scheme. But I don't know if you can compare Robbie Ashford and Nick Marshall. I thought that's probably doing Nick Marshall a disservice to what he did. Athletically, Nick had more athleticism and speed to him. I would even say Nick Marshall was a better passer than Robbie Ashford was. That's why I have Marshall. He's either in my top 5 or he's just outside looking in for my Auburn quarterback thing. I think he's number 5 on that list. He's 4 or 5. I think you see a worse version of what you saw from that offense. Defense wise, who's the defensive coordinator that year? Because would it be Kevin Steele? Because I need to look at that. I'm going to look at that roster real quick. If it's Kevin Steele, then that's the other conversation to have. Because if it's that same, I can't even remember who the defensive coordinator was that year. Well, I felt like it was 3 coordinators ago, and I don't think it really was. Let's see here. That'd be the 2023 season. So you're looking at Keontae Scott, Nehemiah Pritchett, Kyan Lee in his freshman year, DJ James in his last year. So you get a good defensive backfield. I don't think I always forget about Nick Mardner. That's a wide receiver that I always forget about. You got Asante, who, I mean, looking at that, would Asante would still be a linebacker to look out for. I mean, the unit itself would be good. I would just need to know who you have as a defensive coordinator in this scenario. because if it is Kevin Steele, if you're giving him the whole package here, if it's the Gus Malzahn like staff on this team, I do think you get a decent year out of this team. I don't think you get what you got, which was 6-7, if I'm not mistaken. But you definitely get a better year. I would probably say 8 wins, 7 wins. It had dudes. Yes, I see what your comment there. It had dudes, but I just don't know if it had enough to get Auburn where they want to be. See, because your defensive line core would be Jason Jones, Marcus Harris would be in the middle. You'd probably get to see a little bit of Keldric Faulk, but probably wouldn't see a lot of them. Gus was good. Gus's Auburn teams were really good about freshmen. Defensive players only shining in a little bit, not really shining in the lot a bit. But I did think Keldric was one of those players that kind of got to play a lot more as the season went along. Because I think there was a lot of injury issues with this team as well. Not mistaken. But some of these guys I think would fit in. Jay Fair and Javarius Johnson are like, and Coy Moore, but definitely Javarius Johnson and Jay Fair were like the prototypical Gus Malzahn wide receiver. I mean, again, I don't think you'd get the offense that you'd expect from what Robbie Ashford's ceiling is, because I just don't think Gus was never known for his efficiency in developing quarterbacks. The only quarterback I can confidently say developed from year 1 to a year 2 in a Gus Malzahn scheme was Nick Marshall. That was it. You look, I mean, some of those teams got worse though. Sean White was the only another guy I could talk about. He did not improve from year 1 to year 2. Jeremy Johnson definitely didn't improve from year 1 to year 4. Bo Nix did not improve from year 1 to year 2. Jarrett Stidham, you got a great product out of Jarrett Stidham in that first year you had him, but you did not build a team around him for year 2 for him to really improve with. I'm a Jarrett Stidham truther through and through. The best I can compare what I see from Robbie Ashford is I think Robbie's ceiling was always going to be whatever Malik Willis was going to be. I never thought that I think I did think this at one point, but kind of watching Robbie play, I don't think he would have ever had the opportunity or developed into to where Nick Marshall would have even been in his eye line. I think Robbie Ashford kind of, and I say this like Robbie Ashford was recruited by Gus Malzahn whatsoever. I don't know if he was or not, because he was a Hoover kid. Robbie's ceiling was always going to be like a Nick Marshall type, but he never had the mechanics to ever get there. And if Gus was still the coach, I don't think Robbie would have developed to get there. That makes sense. I definitely think Gus was good for what he was. He was a good recruiter, and he was when it came down to him or his job, he was a good strategist. But a developer was never in his wheelhouse. He never hired the right guys to develop. As much as I root for Robbie Ashford still to this day. Wake Forest got a dog. I know that for a fact, and he will put his body on the line for a game no matter what. But I just think you get the same product regardless. I've said this a lot. I think the firing of Gus did feel a little premature at times, especially when it happened, because it was coming off of a win. It was a COVID year. I hated trying to think about firing somebody during COVID year. It was a stupid decision to do that. And it's made worse by who Auburn hired after the fact. But I do think that if you put Gus Malzahn in Hugh Freeze's shoes, trying to build back from what Brian Harsin does, I think you get the same results. If you take Gus Malzahn out, let Brian Harsin burn everything to the ground, and then put Gus Malzahn back, I think you get the same result you got from Hugh Freeze. And this is not me saying I don't think Hugh Freeze very well may not be the guy. I'm not going to sit there and pray on the downfall of, of my football team's coach. This year is the year to get things done. This is the year to prove that proof of concept that, hey, last year happened. This year's a new year. 8-4 this year would be that pinnacle, because this is an 8-win caliber team, and you have an 8-win caliber schedule. So going on, I just think that Auburn is in the same boat. If you roles reversed, put Gus Malzahn back in the lead, I mean, you probably don't recruit as well. The recruiting is much better than it was. I mean, because what Gus, I don't think Gus ever had less than like the 12th class, and of course, Brian Harsin wasn't recruiting, so Hugh Freeze to come in and do all the work to get Auburn back into where they finished off in like class 2023. 8 is the floor. I do believe 8 is the floor. I think 7 wins is a failure, and I don't know if it's a fireable offense. It probably will be. Gus won games. He did not win the games that mattered, though. Gus did win games. He had some 8-4s. He had some 7-5s. He had the rare case of not having. I don't even think I think Gus went like 7 years in a row of having 4 more losses in a season. Gus won some games. He never lost to Arkansas. If there was one thing that Gus would do, it was not lose to Arkansas. Gus would never lose to New Mexico State. That is true. He would never lose to New Mexico State, but he almost lost to Jacksonville State. He had to go to overtime to beat Jacksonville State. I don't hate Gus. Gus is I grew up with Gus Malzahn. I mean, from my time as an Auburn fan, I'm 24 years old, about to be 25. Gus Malzahn was my favorite coach on that 2010 national championship team, because I was always told going into that year that Gus Malzahn was the guy that recruited Cam. So I gave him all of the love in the world for that. I hated it when he left. I loved it when he came back. And, of course, I had the 2013 to the 2020 season of Gus Malzahn. I stand by Gus Malzahn more than I stand by Tommy Tuberville. So – as I mean, my dad have argued about that before. I think Gus Malzahn was a better coach than Tommy Tuberville was, and that could be another debate at some other point. Born in Jacksonville, so I was okay with that. See, I was born I was born near Auburn. I was born in Montgomery, but 45 minutes away from Auburn. I was not okay with that game. So I understand. Gus never lost to New Mexico State. He never lost to no FCS team. He never lost to a G5 team. He might have, actually. Memphis? No. Who played Memphis? No, it was not Memphis. That was a Harsin team. So yeah, Gus and Hugh are pretty much the same coach to me in some regards. I think Hugh is a better recruiter, and I did see a staunch improvement of development between year 1 Thorne and year 2 Thorne. So at least I can say factually and stat-wise, I could say that Hugh Freeze was a better developer than Gus Malzahn was, because Gus's talent always regressed, even though he had the better talent. And right now, based off a 2-year thing, Peyton Thorne did in fact improve. I don't think he was the greatest quarterback in the world, but there were times where he was good. I think FSU will bounce back. I think with NIL, I think they keep signing NIL deals with like sketchy places. I think FSU will be fine in a year or so. Kent Austin is not Hugh. I mean, that's fair too. But then again, Hugh hired Kent Austin. Gus Malzahn did not hire anybody to develop quarterbacks, and nor did he. At some point, you got to be. He's also, I mean, up for debate on whether or not Kevin Steele or DJ Durkin is a better hire. In year 2, will be able to prove that too. Because DJ Durkin got looks. Hey Teresa, how you doing? And Steve Allen says true to that. So as we move on for the show, I mean, I think Hugh and Gus are pretty on point with each other. Gus probably is a lesser developer than Hugh is. Facts prove that. But I don't think that Gus Malzahn could have turned this team around any faster than what we're seeing from Hugh Freeze. So as we continue on with the show, I'm blanking on who it was. I had it on top of my head, but now I lost it. New rankings coming out for the top 5 pass rushers going into the 2025 season. And, PFF already came up with a ranking like this, and Keldric Faulk came in at number 2. This time around, Keldric is coming in at number 5, which, again, it's odd to me that I'm like top 5 in the country, and it is very much a disgrace to to who Keldric is and what he does on the field. Keldric, of course, at one point in the season was on pace to breaking Auburn's sacks in a season record, which I think would have been he could have done that. And teams had to basically scheme him out of the game in some way, double teaming him up the entire time. And it'll be interesting to see how Keldric plays this year with a new defensive front. Kajilla McLeod is out, and Jason Jones is out. I know that Jason Jones is back, but you've got some freshmen coming in that are going to be some dogs. Of course, I am going to stand by Malik Mayhem, the best nickname I've ever come up with. Malik Autry is going to be an absolute dog from the first second he steps on the field. I think he's going to make an impact right away. Of course, guys like Jared Smith are also going to be in that. I want to see Keldric play with his little brother. I just don't know if it will happen. I think the edge rush position might be a little too loaded to see both of them on the same field. But it would be interesting to see, just like in a throwaway game. If you're going to redshirt him, let him play one game and have him line up next to his brother. It'd be really cool, especially for his family to see that happen. But yeah, Keldric Faulk getting some off-season recognition. As, of course, spring practice is getting ready to start. I think they're doing some like OTA stuff during spring break, and then it gets officially underway next week. So it'll be very interesting to talk about some more Auburn football, and Auburn basketball going on at the same time. What a concept that could have happened last year. So as we go on to the next topic, Auburn gymnastics. Right here it's Auburn gymnastic takes. That's how I'm supposed to say. I think I said takes on the SEC in the SEC championships. Of course, Auburn came in, they're tied for 3rd in their session. What happened to Auburn that caused this? Well, you had some people that did not show out at certain rotations. Starting off, Sarah Hubbard had a 9.2 on vault. You had some uneven bar routines that did not go well. Olivia Greaves had a 9.3 and a 9.1 for Sylvia Groth, a very uncharacteristic score from her. On the beam, you had a 9.05 get scored. And then floor, it was a normal day on the floor. But yeah, that I've said all year long, if Auburn does not put up 49 points in a rotation, they will not win the meet. And what happened? They put up 48 in vault and on bars. So that'll do it to you. LSU, of course, went on to win the entire thing and the other session, but Auburn still looking ahead. I believe tomorrow, later tomorrow is the SEC selection day, or NCAA selection day, where Auburn will see what seed they are going into the nationals or regionals, and then hopefully get a chance to play at nationals. All I can say is, you win the SEC, and you're kind of on a losing streak right now. All you got to do is just kind of compose yourself. This team is going to be very good. They just need to straighten some things out moving forward. Vault, of course, has always been a problem for Auburn as far as I can look back at. Bars, of course, is a rare occurrence of that not being a good rotation for Auburn. But you still had a good beam and floor still gave you some 49s, low 49 for beam at that. But regardless, this is still a good squad. Still a very good squad going forward. So with that, let's see. We're gonna move on. Just do a little Diamond Sports update. I'll look at some of the comments. So Auburn baseball took on Kentucky this weekend, got the win, 8-7 in back-to-back games. Had to go to 11 innings in that Saturday game, getting that win. And then of course Sunday lost 5-0. Up next for the Tigers will be South Alabama at beautiful Riverwalk Stadium. I was just talking about Riverwalk Stadium today, and the Montgomery Biscuits. So But I think we're seeing a good version of Auburn baseball so far. Of course, they're on a 2-0 start to the SEC, beating Vanderbilt last weekend 2-1, and beating Kentucky this weekend 2-1. Up next for the Tigers in the SEC, you got to travel to Athens, Georgia, take on the Bulldogs. Hopefully, don't drive too fast through Athens. I hear that it's a speed trap through there. So, with that, Auburn softball, of course, is my bread and butter when it comes to Diamond Sports. Getting swept in another SEC series, 0-3, 0-9 in the SEC this year. Losing to number 2 Texas, which, of course, Texas is a really good team. And what I'm seeing from Auburn is, I mean, I guess you had a very hot start to the year, and what's gone wrong is this is just a new coach. This is a new team. This is a young team. So I'm not going to hold anything on them this year. I think that, I mean, the hype was all there starting off this season, and it was justified. I mean, I was not expecting Auburn to start off like they did. I mean, I believe they were like 15-1 at one point in the year, maybe 21-1 or something crazy. 20. It was something ridiculous. I trust the Malvo's process. I will trust it until I'm proven wrong. I'm not going to put too much weight on year one. Of course, the SEC is the best at every single sport and for out of every conference. You played 3 ranked teams, and all you did was kind of show that you're not a ranked team yet. I'm not going to hold that against them. You got some dogs on this team who are ready to do, if they could get better. Annalie Adams is absolutely ridiculous. I would see what she looks like in year like 3 or 4 going forward. But it's there. This team has shown signs of being really good, and I think they will be eventually. This year, we'll see. We'll see how they kind of change their path going forward. Of course, up next for Auburn softball, you got to travel to Troy, take on the Trojans at 6 o'clock p.m. CST. And of course, this weekend you got Florida in Auburn. So you got an opportunity to try to turn things around, and then after that, it's just no holds barred the rest of the way through the season. Of course, I always find it weird that Auburn is not playing Alabama. Always a weird thing. They do end of the year with a War Eagle Classic playing NC State, which I find very odd. But regardless, I still trust the process. I will trust the process for the Malvos until I'm shown otherwise. But other than that, I mean, this is still a talented team that can turn things around as long as they can. All right, so with that's going to do it for all my topics today. I'm going to look back over here at the comments and see what's going on with Stephen Alex. I do believe I was asked a question in that. Let's see. How much will it cost to bring Keldric back for year 4, or is that not a reality? So Keldric is, last time I checked a mock draft for next year's draft, Keldric was a top 5 pick, top 10 pick. That's a lot of money to turn down. I think if Keldric has the same year he had this year, if this year he has the same stats he did last year, I think Keldric goes high. I don't think it would cost a lot of money to keep Keldric another year. I think he has shown so much development from year 1 to year 2 that if he has improved going to year 3, he is going to be a hot commodity for any potential team that has a first-round pick, an early first-round pick, who has a deep need for a defensive end or an edge rusher. I think Keldric is going to be an absolute dog. I mean, if I had to do a preseason All-SEC team, I'm going to go and tell you Keldric would be the first person I fill out. Don't know who I'd put at quarterback. I think it'd probably be Lenore Sellers. But regardless, I mean, the defense I'm not worried about whatsoever in this season. I think I've already said on record that I think Auburn will have a top 5 defense in the SEC this year. And a lot of that comes into premonition of what I've seen so far from the guys who are already on the team and how they developed so far. And seeing what I expect from what DJ Durkin has done so far. I mean, Jay Crawford was an absolute beast in his freshman year. And I think going into sophomore year, barring a slump, I mean, he could be a top dude in the SEC. I definitely think he could do that. Let's see. I'm also rooting for Hugh. I'm super excited when I heard he was coming to Auburn, but it's been hard to watch at times. I mean, yeah, that's what a rebuild does. I think a lot of the things that get said about Hugh Freeze not turning things around soon, I think it kind of ignores what went wrong with the previous administration. I mean, at one point, Brian Harsin was not recruiting anymore. He just was not recruiting whatsoever. He knew he was a dead man walking and stopped recruiting. A lot of things went wrong in that administration that it did, in fact, cause some lasting effects that have taken a part on that. But, I mean, he said he's quick at turning teams around. Yeah, after year 3, it's third time's the charm. That's the saying, third time's the charm. If you can't do that in year 3, it'll be rough to see. But yeah, he said 3 years, so let's hope this is the year. He's also on record saying, he said, give me 3 recruiting classes. Give me 3 classes and I can get things turned around. That is what he said. And again, I think the schedule is very manageable. You start off the year, you got Baylor, which that'll be a telltale sign of what this Auburn team will be if you can take down Baylor. Ball State, South Alabama should be wins. Then it'll be a tough path for 3 weeks in a row. 4 weeks, technically, if you don't count the bye week. You got Oklahoma, which Oklahoma made some improvements, but I just don't know how much I trust Brent Venables to turn Oklahoma around soon. A&M, a question mark for A&M. Georgia, I would also say Georgia might be a question mark. I don't know how good Georgia's going to be this year because they lost a lot of production and they had a down year last year. Somehow still won the SEC despite a down year, but early signs of a breakdown for Georgia. Got Missouri after that, which I think should be a win. Arkansas should be a win. So if I'm doing the tallies of what I said should be a win, it's currently 4. Kentucky definitely should be a win, and Vanderbilt and Mercer should be a win. And that's 7 wins I'm counting. That's not counting the Iron Bowl. That's not counting Georgia, A&M, Oklahoma, or Baylor. So when I looked at those, I give Auburn 7 wins on this, what should be wins going into the season. So I don't think Arkansas. I don't think upgraded over the years, over the offseason. I don't think Kentucky upgraded over the offseason. They definitely didn't because they kept Stoops. Vanderbilt could be a question mark. They see Vandy scared as long as they have Pavia at quarterback. I mean, it's how likely is Vanderbilt gonna? I knock on wood because I don't want to be in any of their hype videos. I just don't know if Vanderbilt is going to be able to replicate what we saw going into like what happened last year. Because I was lightning in a bottle. It felt like beating Alabama the way they did. They shouldn't have beat Auburn. Auburn was completely on their offense, not figuring out what to do. Because the defense did everything possible. They held Vanderbilt to the lowest point total of the year. Auburn should have beaten Vanderbilt last year, except for a lot of games. Auburn should have won. But I'm going to give Auburn the win at Vanderbilt. So that means Alabama, Georgia, A&M, Oklahoma, Baylor. It's up to – you got 7 wins already. It's up to you to win 1. Up to you to win 1. Lost a lot, but Pavia is that man. I don't like Pavia, although a loss to them wasn't him. Our offense was awful. Our defense held them to a low point. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I just don't know if I fully trust Vanderbilt to I can't trust Lightning to strike twice in Nashville. I can't trust it. I had a SEC page I kept from junior year of high school to late 2023. I tracked Vanderbilt all the way through that. It just doesn't feel possible for them just to consistently win. They had those 2 years with James Franklin. Those are the best years possible for them. I don't know if Clark Lee can keep Vanderbilt like they were last year. Of course, they only won like 6 games, which is a lot for Vanderbilt. That's double what they've probably had in the past 3 years. But regardless, I think Vanderbilt is a win. I do think it's a win. Knock on wood. But yeah, up to Auburn, up to Hugh Freeze in the quarterback situation, whoever starts, up to the offense to figure itself out and win Auburn one of those games. 8-4 is perfectly manageable. I would like going into the offseason before Oklahoma got John Mateer, I would have gave Oklahoma the win. I would never give Auburn the win over Oklahoma. Up to Auburn to win one of those games. So, with that, I mean, we'll talk about Auburn football all week long, starting on spring. When spring's training starts up, because we'll be getting some intel on whether or not who's starting at quarterback, who's starting at running back, who's starting at wide receiver, who's starting wherever. A lot of battles going on this spring. Teresa, do you really think that Deuce has a chance to start? I've been hearing he's been amazing. Well, Deuce has a lot of talent. I definitely think Deuce has an opportunity. If anyone not named Jackson Arnold is going to get the start, it's going to be Deuce. I think Ashton Daniels is really going to be one of those guys that you kind of bring in if you need to. If you're going to give Deuce a red shirt, you're going to get Ashton Daniels up next. You're only going to put Deuce in if it's an emergency, or you're down Jackson Arnold and you need to win some games. I think there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for here? There's a lot barring on what we see out of Jackson Arnold going into this year. Of course, Jackson Arnold is going to be the big conversation topic throughout the entire summer because Auburn has had, I mean, good Lord, 3 years in a row of not good quarterback play. I think you're really looking at a year where Hugh Freeze has to prove that he has a good quarterback on the roster. I mean, we saw highlights of Hank Brown and then saw the lowlights of Hank Brown. We had never got to see Holden Garner, and you got to see a lot of lowlights out of Peyton Thorne. And I mean, you get a good chance to see what Jackson Arnold is made of. You can't, like, going into, like you could say with Oklahoma last year, he had a terrible draw of wide receivers last year. This year, you got one of the best wide receiver rooms in the SEC. So opportunities all around for Jackson Arnold to prove that he is just as good as his high school scouting report says he can be. See, Darrell Robinson, RB1. I'm not opposed. I think that I love Damari. I love Damari's energy. I love his leadership. I just don't know if he is an RB1. Like I've said a lot that I think Jeremiah Cobb could step in and take the job if he wanted to. I think Darrell Robinson could do the same. It'd be very interesting to see how the running back room pans out. I mean, wide receivers I think are pretty much set. I think it's going to be Cam and Eric are going to be your X and Y. Z slot, I'm pretty sure, are going to be your X and Y. And Eric could very well be the slot guy, and then you could put probably another guy out there. Auburn recruited a lot of good wide receivers in the transfer portal. By a lot, I mean two, with Eric Singleton and Horatio Fields. Horatio, I think, doesn't get enough recognition for how good he was at Wake. He's definitely going to be a guy you're going to be trusting with the 50-50 balls. And it'd be very fun to see how he does. I think you got to figure out how you're going to get Malcolm Simmons the ball a lot. I think you got to figure out how you're going to get Perry Thompson the ball a lot. I would like this. My dream scenario for Auburn football, wide receiver wise, is Cam and Perry on the outsides, Eric on the inside, with Malcolm Simmons being an all-purpose guy and can be wherever he wants. And then get Horatio Fields in on like third downs, and where you need a guy that you could just like catch a ball. I think that's a great way to balance out everything. I think Bryce Kane, you're going to see a lot more of him this year. Of course, a lot of those guys as well. Auburn has a really good wide receiver room going down the line. Of course, Stephen just said it. The freshman wide receiver class, I mean, there was a lot of good dudes out of that. I mean, the twins are going to be really cool to see. I think it was Derek and Eric Smith. One of those guys being I don't want to say your average wide receiver, the average wide receiver size, and basically with all the wheel sets you want out of a wide receiver, speed, strength, all that stuff, catching ability. And you have Eric Smith, who has catching ability and also is just like 6'6". Would be crazy to see. Sam Jackson is supposedly killing it too. I'm blanking. When I heard Sam Jackson, I immediately thought of it's not the Cal quarterback. So you mean Sam Turner? You mean Sam Turner? Sam Jackson would be. Sam Jackson is the Cal quarterback that transferred in from last year. Sam Turner is the guy we flipped from Georgia Tech. Yeah, you had me worried for a second. I was like, Sam Jackson, I think, was transferred elsewhere. But yeah, I completely. Sam Turner was a dog in high school, and a lot of these guys, I can't wait to see how they go going into this season. It's going to be a very fun year. Fingers crossed, hopefully. And I can't wait to see how this team pans out. My biggest thing that I want to see out of spring is I want to see, and this is something I don't think people talk about enough. I want to see Alex McPherson ready to go. And I know, like, I want him to be 100% before he kicks another ball. But I want to be confident in when it's fourth down and Auburn's inside the 30-yard line. I want to be able to look at a kicker and be like, he's going to make it. And Alex McPherson right now is the only one I can trust to do that. I mean, they got some guys who are coming in. Of course, last year was last year. This year is this year. If Alex McPherson can't go, it's fine. I'm not going to try to rush somebody's health just because I want to win football games. Be healthy. But I do want to see Alex McPherson, if he's ready to go, I do want to see him try to kick. If not, no biggie. Just need to see the other guys make some kicks. So, so with that, that's going to do it for this time of the College League Podcast. We're going on for a little over 50 minutes. So go ahead and get out of here. So, of course, we'll be continuing the conversation of Auburn football and Auburn basketball throughout the week. Of course, Auburn plays on Friday for the Sweet 16 against Michigan. We'll be previewing that on the Thursday show, talking about that. Probably, I don't want to say on the Sunday show. I probably want to talk about that one before, because I think the Elite Eight is Sunday for Auburn. If Auburn wins against Michigan, let me say that out of nowhere. If Auburn were to win on Friday, they would be playing on Sunday. Not mistaken, for the Elite Eight. I'm going to check that before I go, just so I don't feel like an idiot going forward, which is very well could be the issue here. So, yeah, Friday, Sweet 16, and I went backwards. Sunday. All right, so sweet, yeah. Elite Eight would be Sunday. So have a show probably Saturday, recapping and previewing the Elite Eight if Auburn wins against Michigan. Fingers crossed, please let it happen. So yeah, get ready for that. Of course, talking about previewing Auburn softball tomorrow as well. So that being said, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to shout out to Stephen Allen and Teresa for stepping in and having a nice little conversation. Nice, beautiful conversation about whether or not Hugh Freeze and Gus Malzahn are could be interchanged with each other. Let's see. Before I go, Stephen, I'm not gonna lie. I told myself I wasn't going to get excited for this season, but I think Auburn will be in the playoffs this year. That's not a terrible opinion. If Auburn, if you were 10 wins is in, I want to believe. Only two more games. But I do think playoffs out of the picture this year, playoffs in the picture next year if Auburn hits the requirements needed this year. I think 8-4 this year implies playoff next year. And I might just be a delusional Auburn fan. Look at my set. I might just be a delusional Auburn fan saying that. I have two jerseys that are just number 34 in basketball. And I'm contemplating buying a Janai Broom jersey just so I can have one. I am a delusional Auburn fan. But I do think that if you get 8-4 this year, it shows that improvement level that you are going to get to where you want to be the next year. But up to you, Freeze, to the side. Teresa, my daughter graduates in May, so I was going to back off, but I'm excited to see them do well and will stay a true fan. War Eagle, Teresa, and shout out your daughter for graduating from Auburn University. Beautiful college, best college in the world, beautiful campus, best campus in the world. As a school, I will forever bug about Auburn University as a school. I agree with Dylan. 8 or 9 this year, and then playoffs the next. Same picture. Hopefully UTSA being that too, and Wazoo. Get everybody in there. Get Washington State, get UTSA, get Auburn in the playoffs in the same year. And I think Teresa, it'd be the best football season ever for Teresa. You get all three of those teams in. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in to this of the College League Podcast. Be a great conversation. Let me know what you think of Auburn versus Michigan in the comment section below. And of course, don't forget to check us out on social media platforms, literally all of them: Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, the works. All those at the College Loop. Also, don't forget to check us out right here on YouTube. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, War Eagle.